I understand how difficult it is to start reading nonfiction, and I can tell you that I didn't voluntarily read much nonfiction until after I graduated from high school. And today I'm going to give you a guide on how to start reading nonfiction. The first step is finding a genre to read. For every interest or academic endeavor, there is a genre of nonfiction. So how do we know which genre of nonfiction is right for you? My best answer is to start by looking at what your interests in fiction are. When I started reading nonfiction, most of the fiction I was reading were high fantasies. So I read books about mythology and medieval warfare. Now this was to gain ideas for me writing my own fantasy. In fact, wanting to write your own book is actually a pretty good motivation to start reading nonfiction. Let's say that you really like the teen drama YA books. Biographies would be a good nonfiction substitute for that. Read and learn about the life and drama of an important person who puts the teen drama of your latest YA book to shame. If you read a lot of urban fantasies like all of the countless number of vampire books that are out nowadays, then perhaps you should read up on the mythology and folklore of those different fantasy creatures. Once you have found the genre that you are interested in, then comes finding an actual book to read. A lot of the books that I read and that are on the shelves behind me were not recommendations. They were books I came across at bookstores and garage sales that just caught my attention because they just seemed really interesting. You do just like you do with fiction books. You read the title, you look at the cover. But with nonfiction books, there are things you can do that you try to avoid with fiction. When it comes to nonfiction, the old saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover," doesn't hold nearly as much weight. A book called The Forgotten Man, with a black and white picture from the Great Depression, is not going to be a history of Mayor McCheese. And you should also read the synopsis, because unlike fiction books in which you're trying to avoid spoilers at all possible, nonfiction books are primarily non-narrative, which means it doesn't really matter what order in which you obtain the information, all the information is going to be the same. Once you have procured a book that you think you'll like, it's then up to you to find a way to read the book that you think you can actually make progress in it. Nonfiction tends to not be as gripping as fiction, and so this is where you're going to struggle to find the willpower to keep reading. So my best advice is to simply pick an amount that you're going to read a day and stick to it. My suggestion is to start by just reading a chapter a day if you're having trouble keeping focus. I suggest you do this until you feel as comfortable or as excited to read nonfiction as you do fiction. Reading nonfiction requires a bit of a different mindset than you would reading fiction. While reading fiction, you are trying to guess what's going to happen next without skipping ahead. This is not the mindset to have while reading nonfiction. You should have an acquisitorial mindset, as in you should be there to gain the information that is in the book. I know it sounds like reading this stuff is torture, but trust me, it gets better and it's really worth it. It is definitely an acquired taste, but once you have it, you'll never be without reading options. If you want to know more about why I read fiction, you can click this annotation here to see my video about that. While you're at it, why don't you click that subscribe button to receive more content like this, or you can check out one of my other channels, which much of the information I gained from reading nonfiction ends up being used for projects there. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and keep reading.